Alright guys, so we did a setup video a week or so ago, and we had a few people ask about a teardown video, so we're going to go ahead and show that to you right now. We're going to start here on the inside. So we kind of work from the front of the camper to the back. So the first thing we've done, which it's already done, but I'll show you anyway, in the bedroom, never mind the not made bed, closet doors latched and the bed slide in. Then of course, lights out, door shut, and we move on to the bathroom.
In the bathroom, not much. Just what we do is we have to open the shower door, and then we use this latch and latch it right there. So then,
and it's got a click.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. And then the shower doors can't move while we're traveling. And then up here, I can't reach, so Daddy's gonna show you.
Yep, we
have
just
to latch the bathroom door. So then it can't move while we're traveling.
Yep.
So it's all latched.
There we go.
My room, I have to pick up all the stuff from the floor, and I have to make sure nothing is loose. I usually put a lot of things on my bed, so I have to clean up that. And then we don't really have to do much. All we have to do in here is I have to clean up and then put the slide in. And then we have to close the door.
Here in the main part then, obviously we clean up all the countertop surfaces.
Everything we just throw in the middle of the sink because it doesn't move around inside the sink.
So we just kind of pick up, strap things down. The coffee maker rides back here. You can see it's strapped down.
Scott put all these straps in everywhere. We have that.
And then the trash can, we have the same thing here, so the trash can can't move while traveling.
Yep.
If you've ever traveled and had a dumped over trash can, you know how important that is.
And you have to make sure your mom closes the dish soap.
Yep. We always stage everything that's got to go in the truck on the dinette. So as we're packing up and cleaning up and getting ready to go, if you want it in the truck, it goes right here.
Next we have to put in the kitchen slide. We can't do the dinette yet because we're still in here, so let's do the kitchen slide. So up here we have this panel where we have the slides, and kitchen slide I do in.
Now one thing you want to make sure also, and sometimes this stuff can get forgotten, if you're running any of your HVAC, make sure you get that shut off, heater, air conditioning. Make sure you get your water heater shut off, and if you're boondocking and your water pump is on, make sure you turn your water pump off, because you don't want that on while you're bouncing down the road.
And you got to remember to put your awnings in.
Yes, for sure, put your awnings in.
I saw that move around.
So the last thing would be to close this slide, but we can't get out of the camper with it closed, so we get everything out, then we'll close that slide, and then we'll move on to the outside.
So next we have the last slide, the sofa dinette slide. So here you can watch it. Gotta go to slides. And here you have your panel. I have to go to slides. Sometimes it just acts weird. Okay, there we go. So sofa dinette slide in. And guys, that's why it's the last slide, because we have to get out first.
Alright, now that the inside of the camper is all packed up, all that's left to do is fold the stairs in and shut the door, and then we'll move on to the outside stuff. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do over here is we're going to disconnect our freshwater inlets so that we can flush and drain our tanks. So we'll shut that off here, bleed off a little pressure on this hose here. There we go. And disconnect this in here. Cap off our filter just so it doesn't dry out or leak everywhere. Alright. We'll put this away here in just a second. What we're going to do, we've got a black tank flush. I use a different hose for that. I don't know that it's mega critical, but it makes me feel better not to flush my black tank with the hose we use all our other water for. So we'll hook up this other hose,
Edit that
turn
part.
our water back on, and we'll just open this valve a little bit. Now we're not running our regulator anymore, so I don't turn it on full volume. Just turn on a little bit. It runs through a check valve underneath the bathroom sink, and it runs a flush in the black tank. So we kind of get that started, and then we'll pull our black handle, do our black tank first. We won't show you that what that looks like because nobody wants to see that.
We'll do a little quick. Woo!
So anyway, so we'll flush the black tank. That's going to take a few minutes, so we will probably do some clever editing here. But basically what's going to happen is we drain the black tank, let it continue to flush, and we'll close it and open it a few times. That way that water can fill back up and kind of flush that out, drain it, fill it, flush it two or three times. Kind of helps just flush everything out of there, all the solid material. And then always drain your gray tanks after you've drained your black tank. All right, so we've got our black tank drained, and now we're going to flush our gray tanks. So the poles in the wet bay here, we've got our black handle on the left, and we've got one gray on the right, which is the bathroom, shower, and sink. Now we've got two gray tanks, so the other pole, I don't know why it's not in there, but it's underneath here. I've seen people post, they're like, I've got two tanks, I don't know where the other handle is. A lot of times they're underneath, so if you can get down here, I'll show you. This is the kitchen for the kitchen sink, and it's back right here. You can see it right here. So we're gonna now, since our black tank's done, we're gonna flush the line with quote unquote cleaner water, and that's all our kitchen sink water. So we'll let that drain, and that's like 38 gallons, I believe. So this process kind of takes a while because the black's 38, the kitchen's 38, and the bathroom's 38. So there's 100 some odd gallons of water we got to drain out of here, plus the flushing of the black tank. So it's not necessarily a quick process to do it well. It does take a few minutes. All right, so we've flushed and drained the gray. We've drained the galley, which is the kitchen. So we're now just going to pull this gray to drain the bathroom, shower, and the sink. All right, so all the three tanks are drained. So we're getting ready to disconnect our hose. Now the biggest thing to remember before you go doing that, you don't want to get in a hurry. Make sure all your valves are closed. So I've got black valve closed. Here's my gray. We're going to close that. Let's come around here and check our other gray. Make sure it's closed. Showed you where that was earlier. It's open, so we're going to close it. And the last one's this valve here, which I talked about in our setup video. So that's the last one. We want to make sure that's closed before we disconnect our hose, so we know all flow has stopped, any residue that might be in there. So we'll get our caps out of here for the sewer hose. We can disconnect right here. Just kind of keep it up in the air. There could be a little bit left in the hose, so we'll put this end cap on, and then we'll just kind of make sure it has any residual is out of there. Then we can disconnect from the sewer end, get our adapter out of there, put their cap back on. And we just kind of shrink our hose up like that, cap this end, and then it can go nice and neat in the tote. This goes on there just like that, pretty nice and neat. Put our cap back on our sewer line like that. So we got our water disconnected, we got our sewer disconnected. We can go ahead and disconnect our electrical, so we'll just shut the breaker off, pull that, and just coil it up. Got a 50 amp camper. These cords are crazy heavy.
Side note, we're not doing right now, but if we were going to be going to a boondocking place from here, like a BLM land or Harvest Host or something like that, where we would not be hooked up to any utilities, then while Scott's doing all of this, I would be over there filling up the water tank, our fresh water tank. We don't travel with water unless we know we're going someplace that we're going to be boondocking, because water is really, really heavy.
getting lined up mostly. And then we got to check our pin height so that we know it's going to lock in to the hitch. So we're a little high. We want this plate to be maybe just kind of down in this area so that it will actually squat the truck, so we know the plates will come together and that pin will lock right in. So we're going to lower the pin box just a little bit. All right, that ought to be good. So we're going to see if we can get her locked in. Kind of heard that click. That tells me from the cab it's locked, but a way to double check that is come over here, is if you can see this green dot right here, that tells me that this handle is slid all the way in and it's locked in. Another way you can check, just to be sure, is to look at the jaws right there, and you can see they've come together. They're not like overlapping, they're not open with a gap in them, but they have completely come together flush and straight. So now I know that I'm locked. So now I want to pin this so it cannot come, because you can pull this and release it. So we put that in there. We'll hook up our safety brake. We just kind of slide that through there, and then this pin goes there, so that can't release, that can't come undone. So now we are locked into the truck. So once that's done, then I'll raise all my jacks off the camper. And there's a setting in here on the the automatic leveler that we've talked about before. I can go down through the menu to auto return all, hit enter, and all 4 jacks come up at the same time. So they'll start coming up, and then we can start grabbing chocks and pads.
Sometimes what happens rather frequently is the chocks get wedged in here as the camper kind of shifts, and I can't get them out. Scott has to move to let me get it out.
All right, so now we're hooked up. We've got our chocks and blocks. We're gonna make sure we hook up our electrical for our lights on the trailer and the trailer brakes, which on the 5th wheel goes over here in the corner. So we'll plug that in and we'll check it here in just a second.
Sometimes we're a little bit unlevel at our sites, and so if that happens, we're unlevel side to side, we put a board under the tires there, and it takes both of us to remember that there's a board there, because we don't ever want to leave it here. You know, price of lumber these days.
All right, so we're hooked up, we're ready to go. The last thing we want to do is just do our walk around, and I always do that. We've set up and tore down hundreds of times. Still always do a walk around. Just anything on the ground I've forgotten, anything like the cap off on the sewer, maybe a slide didn't get put in all the way. Make sure baggage doors are shut and latched, tray tables in the upright position, all that kind of fun stuff. Once we're hooked up, I turn my hazards on, so in my walk around I can come back here and make sure my lights are functioning. I've got 2 blinking lights, so now I've got a good electrical connection. Bikes, we didn't get them down this time, but if we had got them down, just make sure they're hooked up, everything's good there. No, maybe I've backed into a branch or something, make sure nothing's laying on or leaning against towards the top of the camper. Same thing down this side, slides in, doors closed, baggage compartments latched. Older campers had flip-up antennas that you'd want to check for. I don't think the newer ones really do much anymore, so that's not something you really got to check. Obviously awnings in, that's a big one. And I always just look at my tires. And I do check the tire pressure frequently. I don't check it every single time, but I eyeball them, because you can tell a low tire. So I'll eyeball all 4 of them in my walk around, make sure one of them doesn't look weird, look low, anything like that. So it's just kind of giving everything a visual kind of before we take off. All right, so we're hooked up, we're ready to leave. We've checked lights, we've done our walk around. The last thing I like to do is I'll foot on the brake, truck in gear, and then I'll engage the trailer brakes at 100% and then let off the truck brake. First of all, the truck shouldn't go anywhere, so that tells me my trailer brakes are working. Then the next thing I'll do while holding the trailer brake is just kind of give the truck a little gas, basically try to separate the truck and trailer. So that tells me for sure, absolutely, that I've got a good connection at my hitch and my kingpin. So that's kind of like the last check. All right, last thing before we get going as well is I always turn on the exhaust brake. This is diesel truck related only. Exhaust brake is super helpful when towing, and in most heavy trucks will have a drive mode. So I just take that out of normal and put that in tow haul. I can just change his transmission shift points and things like that. So tow haul, exhaust brake, and we're ready to roll.
Okay, so we are on the road and we are rolling. Setup and tear down each take about 10-15 minutes. Tear down is a little bit longer because of draining the tanks. So when we're boondocking, tear down is super quick because we don't have to drain anything. One thing I didn't talk about is this morning while I was working, Scott took the truck to the gas station and filled up the truck with gas. That way, once we start towing, we don't have to stop for fuel. Now, I have had people say, is it really hard to stop at gas stations when you're pulling? And the answer is yes, at a regular gas station. Pulling a full-size truck with a 40-foot fifth wheel is not going to fit in and out of most gas stations. We've done it, but that is not preferable. So if you're pulling, always look at your route and find a truck stop. We're partial to Pilots because we have a little rewards thing or whatever. Loves truck stop, any of them. You can fit through there. They have diesel. Our truck is a diesel truck. They usually have a restaurant and clean restrooms. So we are on the road. Anna is happily
Playing Roblox.
playing Roblox, and we are good to go. Hope you enjoyed our video.